from Gateshead.
And we've got Andrew here in little Shildon at the moment, but it's a funny. We keep every time we're like, oh yeah, I'll get the podcast up and running and stuff.
We're 18th podcast, I think it is, in about 18 months. So we're nothing but a monthly podcast. And we'll do it at the strangest times as well. But
what'll happen first, the podcast or Carlton Brook?
Exactly. I guarantee you by the end of this hour podcast, at the end of the episode, we'll go, right, we'll definitely do one next week. We're going to keep these regular from now on.
I think we just abandon that promise, and then if it happens, it happens.
Well, that's it. We just both thought we had a bit of time on a Sunday night to spare. And here we are, just reviewing the weekend and the last couple of weeks and stuff. And I guess looking forward to the end of the year now, really counting down towards December.
Well, that's it. It's a funny one because again, it's not the lack of podcast isn't through a lack of boxing to talk about or a lack of action to discuss. We've been fairly busy in the last few weeks.
We have. We've been full on busy. Probably one of our busiest months of the
Yeah,
year.
taking quite a lot in, and so I suppose we'll do well to limit this one to an hour with all the boxing we need to fill in and catch up on.
I know, that's it, and it's the ever-changing cycle, I guess, the cycle of boxing. No, it never stops. Like, it seems an eternity ago since you went to Glasgow, and it just keeps taking over and over. And again, it dawned on me today. I was driving back from having a dog out somewhere over in Gateshead, and it's just like it's less than a fortnight now to Fury Wilder, and you're just like mental. Like, it's less than 2 weeks, and it seems 2 seconds ago that we were like, oh, that fight won't happen, and maybe it still won't. But
just what you say there. 2 weeks can be a long time in boxing.
13 days away, and I guess it's another one of, I always say this, it's going under the radar, and it feels, I wasn't even meant to go in this to start with, but I'm just off on one. But it's just mad because it does seem a bit under the radar. I don't know if is it because it's not on Sky, and I know BT are doing some sort of no filter boxing shows and that, but they seem to be on quite late at night and stuff. But less than 2 weeks to that, and a massive heavyweight clash, and just seems to be bubbling under a bit at the minute. But again, looking forward to it though.
I think a few things. I think what you mentioned there, like not being on Sky, I think whether you like it or not, Sky is the main vehicle for boxing in the country at the moment. They've got probably, well, I don't know, actually I was going to say they've got the biggest stable, but just from what you were saying before about like the ever-changing cycle, it seems the sort of what you would associate. You think about the Matchroom stable, and it's probably not as in depth as you'd think, especially for the future. They obviously have some prospects and what have you, but with
I don't think it is.
But with going back to Fury and Wilder, before I go off on a total tangent, so yeah, you've said that it's not on Sky. I think the fact that it's not happening in this country, there's not that mad push on it that there would be when you're trying to shift tickets for a big show.
I agree with that. That's true. It's a fair comment. That.
As you said, there is a bit on BT, and it's a difficult one. Cause I'm assuming BT box office, has that been confirmed?
I think it's BT box office, along with Warrington at the end of the month, the 22nd as well. I think they're the two fights that are upcoming on BT box office.
That's the thing. Like, obviously, that one has got its own issues, which I'm sure we'll cover at some point. But it's the main thing's the time difference, isn't it? It's always hard to sell a pay-per-view over here when you've got to charge people basically 20 quid to try and stay up till the early hours to watch it.
No, it's true. I'm sure it is box office, isn't it? I'm sure.
I can't imagine it being any less, to be honest.
Well, I know, and that's it. And it's a good point actually, because it's been a while since I've done the old 3 a.m. alarm set up on a Sunday morning, like. But I usually just keep my phone off and watch whatever I need to watch on the Sunday morning when I get up. But maybe that's the one I might have to, make the exception for and get up. But sometimes it's easier said than done, isn't it, when your alarm goes off at that time?
Exactly. I found it more easier just to stay up recently.
Stay power through, I know, but then if you've been out or you've been in a match, you've had a drink or something, sometimes it's more or less impossible, But no, it's a fight I'm looking forward to, but I'm sure we'll preview that in a bit more detail before then.
Right, so where to start over the last few weeks? Shall we start with a little review of last night for you?
Pardon?
Shall we start with a little review of last night, and then we'll work our way back in time?
We'll start with this weekend first. I'll start.
Good, because I haven't seen any boxing this weekend at all.
To be honest, I haven't seen well, there hasn't been much on, to be honest, but I've seen snippets of things, and a bit of the Sky show last night. We'll start with Friday night. I was, again, talking about going on the radar, sort of, even on the North East, seen this happen sometimes, and I was at the Lancastrian Street in Gateshead, where else, to take in a 4-fight show, which is put on by Black Flash Promotions, run by Pat Barrett. 4 fights on Friday night at the Lancastrian Street. Decent enough card, some talent on there. Again, 4 fights, you just think, sometimes you get surprised at even going ahead, but go ahead it did, and there was some quality on there, some good fighters. No stoppages, unfortunately, just 4 points wins, but it was good. It was good to catch up with some familiar faces and see some people I haven't seen in a while. North East Rise. So it was a good little night. The first fight was a fighter that we've sort of watched since debut, really, and been aware of since debut. I think we've never missed one of his 4 fights this year. You saw him first at Summer Rumble, I think, Stadium night, Terence Wilkinson.
Yeah.
He was having his 4th fight basically in the second half of 2018. I think his debut was June, July or something, and he's, that was his 4th and final fight of the year. And he seems to be getting better. I said this on Friday night. After watching him, he seems to be getting better with each performance. He's grown into it. You can tell he looks bigger, he looks stronger. He looks a lot more relaxed now. And I think I saw his second fight and his 4th and his 3rd and 4th. But his second fight I didn't see the one you saw at Summer Rumble, but I did see it at Rayton Meadows Arena, and he looked quite tentative early on, and he was a bit uptight, and he just wasn't relaxed. And it took him to probably the 3rd of 4 rounds that night to relax. But he was fighting Fons Alexander on Friday night, and he was good from the start. I think we both seen him, didn't we, on the undercard of Ritz and Patera?
Yeah, we watched that together, obviously.
And I think that's done him wonders. Fighting in the arena that night, big tickets there. He sold a lot of tickets from Forest Hall. If anyone doesn't know, he trains out of the same gym as Lewis Ritson, trains out of Forest Hall Boxing Club, trained by Davey Ritson. Fannin was in the corner as well. And I think that fight must have done the world of good, because the fight against Adaway at the arena that I'm referring to, he had him down and he was just bossed him the whole way through, and that was an evidence again against a tough man in Fons Alexander. But Wilkinson just dominated him throughout and won very comfortably on the cards. Complete shot, I believe, 40-36. So again, it's been a good year for him, and he's won 4-0. He's 4-0 now. He hasn't had a stoppage on his record, but I think that could possibly be deceiving. I think they will come in the future, because he does look heavy-handed at times, but I guess there's no shame in not putting people like Fons Alexander away. Do you know what I mean? A tough journeyman, and knows his way around a 4-round fight, no bother. But again, dominant from Wilkinson, and as I say, getting better, I believe, every time we watch him, really.
Yeah, he's like, just repeat what you've said there, he's one for obviously keep an eye on, just what you want from a prospect, isn't it? He made his debut, say July, he's had 3 fights since, kept busy, kept active, and you ask any boxer turning over, that's exactly what they want. And then obviously he's got the added bonus of, from your perspective anyway, sort of improving as he's going on and maybe settling into it a bit.
I think that's it, and I think, as you say, he's had 4 fights now, and as I said, all since July, and I think that's the key to staying active, isn't it? It's I think up here sometimes you see lads have a fight, and then we were discussing this at ringside, me and I think and Roy Kelly on Friday night. I think the North East, sometimes you see lads have 1 or 2 fights, and then you don't see them again, and you just think, where did they go? But I guess that's a discussion for another day, really. Sometimes they just drop off the radar up here. And I was told by one of the board members, how many professional boxers do you think are registered in the North East? The North East of the Cumbria area. What's your guess?
What a question that is.
Go on, what's your guess?
See, now I'm doubting. I'm like trying to double guess myself and think what you're getting at. Hold on, I'm doing a few rough calculations here. I'm not on BoxRec.
Registered professional boxers in the North Eastern Cumbria, and I was told the answer by a board official, so
I would guess, based on who I've seen boxing, at most about 30.
Roy Kelly said 20 to 30, and do you know how many we were told by a guy from the board whose name I forget? 59.
59?
59, 5-9.
You're going to get me to name them?
4 in Cumbria, and the rest in the north. This is the northern area, so whatever encompasses the northern area.
So a bit wider than just like the northeast or whatever.
Yeah, probably a bit wider. You're talking Teesside and stuff like that, but yeah, northern area. 59, and then it got me thinking. I was like, it's probably true, like, because you think of, I don't know, people who you've never seen from Job's gymming, like Connor Somerville and Mark Taylor, and these Michael Watson from Sedgefield, and all these people like who you see and then you just never really see again. Do you know what I mean? Like what I was just saying there. Like I think up here sometimes people can just drop off the face of the earth. Chris Grout and all these names that for whatever reason, I don't know, you just fall away, don't they?
That's it. But then again, as I say, I wouldn't have thought that they were still registered and so. I mean, I don't know the exact ins and outs of it all, but you've got the likes of Mark Taylor. I speak to him, see him at most local shows and stuff. I always have a word with him and that, and he's just as an example, he's had injuries and what have you, so he would be one. I think, obviously he's still going to be active. Whereas some of them, like Watson, as you mentioned there, we saw him at the arena, and then
I was saying that.
Haven't seen him since.
I'm talking about Roy, as if people know him. Roy Kelly, who
everyone knows Roy, man.
Roy Kelly, top boxing journalist from up here, Hartlepool based and stuff. Yeah, bit of a northeast legend. And I was saying, as the example I gave, I was like, don't know, for whatever reason, it was the Smith Williams 2 undercard and at the arena, and he was on first, Michael Watson, that night, I think. And I don't know, he just looked really good. He's blasted some foreign journeyman out of there in the first round, cruiserweight, and I was delighted, first on in the arena, like, man, you just don't know what happens to these people after that. You literally want to know.
It's just life sometimes, though, isn't it? Like,
does life get in the way?
Takes over, distracts, whatever.
We was talking, there could be many factors, and I guess it's an interesting discussion. Do your son realise that pro boxing's not what it's cracked up to be when you're giving, you're trying to sell tickets and you're giving your purse, split to your trainer, your kit, all this manager's fee, it's all, it's hard. But anyway, that was I've gone slightly off tangent here, but just going back to Terence, I guess that's why he should be applauded really, and he obviously shifted some tickets. There's a lot of Team Wilker t-shirts in evidence again, just like there was at the arena, and it's been a good start for him and a one for people. I know a lot of people always ask us, who should we keep an eye on? I think he's definitely one of them, 100%.
Well, I'm going to try and drag you back into what we were actually discussing. Just like saying there about, so we've talked about like area level and like not even area level with some of them, just the prospects turning over and struggling to keep the momentum going and stay in the ring. But that obviously happens a little bit higher up the chain as well. And one of the other fighters on the card will be a bit more familiar to our sort of national listeners, shall we say, one's not just based in the northeast. And Marcus Morrison actually fought on the card.
Yeah, he did. Marcus Morrison, who's now with Pat Barrett, I guess promotionally and trainer-wise as well. He was in the corner on Friday night in Marcus's corner, and it was funny because he fought a guy called Darryl Sharp, who's also from Manchester, and I was just sitting there ringside in Dunstan Gateshead thinking, quite bizarre this, I'm watching a Manchester local derby really in Dunstan, and Marcus won the fight. He won at 60-55. Good to see him back, and I was just reflecting on that, and you're just thinking it's mad how things change. It took me back to when we went to see Crolla Linares at the arena, us and a few of our mates and stuff, and Marcus was fighting that night against Jason Wellborn for some international title or something, and Marcus went into that fight, I think the odds on favour, and he was unbeaten at that point with Joe Gallagher, signed with Matchroom. You think, God, he's got it all at that point, and basically Wellborn battered him, and then you just look at how fortunes have contrasted since. I think Marcus had another loss, maybe another 2 losses since then. One was to Alistair Warren, I can't recall.
He has. I was just going to attest you on that.
It's definitely Alistair Warren.
It was, you're right. So, when we were talking about there, when he lost to Wellborn, that was in March last year.
March 2017,
Yeah. Including that fight, or like since then, how many times do you think he's fought, Morrison?
I think this Friday gone was the second fight of his new comeback, maybe. So once since then with Barrett, I think, and then maybe he definitely got beat off Alistair Warren. I remember Twitter was a bit buzzing with that, and bloody hell, he's got beat again. And I'm sure he's got beat one more time. I can't remember who off.
Yeah, he got beat off Tyron Booth.
Did he really?
Straight after the Jason Wellborn fight in a 4 exactly in a 4-rounder.
Twitter big mouth.
But the Darryl Sharp fight was his 7th fight. Like his 6th fight since Wellborn, so 7th including the Wellborn loss.
Yeah.
So like it's funny because what you were saying there, like when I'd heard he was on the bill and stuff, you think, oh yeah, he's back in that, but he has been fairly active, like.
No, he hasn't.
In trying to respond and rebuilding, but it's obviously for one reason or another, it hasn't worked under Joe Gallagher.
I think he left. I think this is his second fight under Barrett. I did manage to grab a word with him after. He had a bit of a limp, but he ducked in it. I think he must have hurt his leg during the fight. But it's funny how you talk about contrasting fortunes, and then Wellburn's obviously gone on to massive, bigger and better things since then. He's won the British, I think, defended the British, and now he's got a world title fight. And then the other guy, as you say, 18 months ago, basically, is now fighting 6-rounders in, Federation Brewery in Gateshead. It's just mad, and it also made me think of another contrast there, like how boxing can be a cruel sport sometimes. You've got Charlie Edwards has just had a world title fight announced this weekend, and his last opponent, South Shields Anthony Nelson, has just retired, and you just think, fine margins, do you know what I mean? Like, that last fight could have catapulted Nelson into the big time, and obviously he's had to take the decision to retire, and Charlie Edwards is now going on to a world title shot, and it just made me also think of Morrison and Wellborn as well, and just how things change and how cruel it can be sometimes. I guess, as I say, he went in the Wellborn fight as a favourite, in the home fight at Manchester Arena, his home arena, against, I guess Wellborn was considered a bit of an early man at that time, but Jason Wellborn, sorry, and look at him now, getting back to Friday, he won it comfortably. Still, to me, and a couple of others ringside looked a little bit nervous, and you just think those defeated maybe hit him a bit hard, and he's quite tentative in the ring. When he did float and when he let his shots go, he looked spot on, he looked great, but there was other times where it just looked a bit rigid, and sort of admiring his shots as well, like maybe he's that style of time, when people were blowing a bit of smoke up his arse maybe, and like, a bit of a class above you, and there was, if he just, maybe he was forcing it sometimes, looking for those big shots, but when he relaxed and when he boxed, he was the better man from Darryl Sharp, and that was reflected. But
well, that was the thing. Like, I've obviously when I was asking you there, I literally brought up Morrison's box rec because I was having a look through. I was thinking I couldn't name who else he'd lost to, but like he went through a run before he fought Wellborn of a lot of like early stoppages in the first and second round, and obviously we've seen firsthand like that generates a bit of hype, and as you say, you add like a young man, he's unbeaten, picked up some like WBC belt along the way, and you just think, oh, he's working his way, he's getting towards British level, and
that's it, fighting out of a successful gym,
Yeah, exactly. All like the big sort of push behind him, and that momentum, that confidence that'll bring, and then it's such a, what you said there about fine margins. It's such a fine balance. I think bringing a prospect on, like there's not a one single right way, but trying to do it properly, because
100%,
you want, like, no one really wants to watch it, but like you look at likes of like Anthony Fowler and obviously those with like a bigger pedigree, should we say, in terms of amateurs and stuff. Like, yes, the blasting these guys out that are clearly overmatched, and it's easy to say, what are these prospects going to learn from blowing someone away in 30 seconds or a minute or whatever, and obviously nothing, but you don't want to then like put them straight in and have the confidence shattered, have the momentum derailed, and like for no reward. So like again, it's hard because as boxing fans, I hate the phrase when they're saying, oh, like, let him marinate, we'll fight him, we're building, we're working towards the next. But as a promoter or whatever, or a manager, or even the trainer, the guys who are responsible for picking the fights along with obviously the matchmakers, they've got to be looking further down the line than just their next fight.
Well, that's it, of course they do, and
as fans, we don't do that, or we don't tend to do that as often, or with as much patience.
Well, that's it, and he's now had to start all over again, really. It's from scratch again now. It's a new training, new promotional setup. God knows how he's made money fighting up here on a Friday night. There was a bit of support in the arena for him, a few Manchester friends and family, I guess, but I say arena, venue.
He's selling it well, eh? Anyone who's been the Lancastrian Streets like arena, are you talking about the same one?
And it wasn't even I've seen the Lancastrian Street busier anyway, put it that way. I don't know, it was just, so how he's, I guess Pat Barrett must be investing a bit of time and money into him as well, with his Black Flash.
I was going to say, I might be just generalising, but I'm sure he obviously knows him quite well anyway, knows Alpha and that.
From that area, 100%, aye. But I guess he's fair play to him. I guess he's sticking at it. I guess he's basically, he's boxing can cheer you up and spit you out. I guess, and I suppose that's what's happened to him since the Wellborn fight, where it all went a bit tits up, I guess. But he's obviously made the decision that he wants to carry on. He's split with Joe Gallagher probably for the best, I guess. Who's something obviously wasn't working there, was it? But he felt he needed a new trainer, and he won it. He did win the fight. It wasn't a great fight by any means. It was over 6 rounds. He won it. He deservedly won it. But I think I call it working progress on Friday night and a step in the right direction. And I guess that's all you can take from it. And maybe he's winning the fights that he was losing. You mentioned Ty and Booth and Alistair Warren and stuff like that, and just a few back-to-back wins and work on the basics and start again. I think that's all you can do. But it was good to see him. And as I said, it was a little bizarre watching a fight between two men. I know it was. It was put on by a Manchester-based promotional company, but still bizarre watching two Mancunians fighting in the Lancastrian suite. So,
what about the home interest then? Because there was a bit of couple of the northeast lads on the bill.
There was. We had a bit of we had a 20-minute interval after the second fight, which the Morrison fight. So I'm going in order of the card here. Billy Hardy filled in the interval as he does, introducing everyone in the arena. Zelfa Barrett, Avina again there. Zelfa Barrett and a few others were in the house. So, there was a few good familiar faces there. Lewis Whitson was there as well. He was the special guest star apparently. Had his British title with him, working the crowd. And then we moved on after the interval. Martin Ward was back in action. Older brother of Tommy, former European and world and British title challenger, I guess. Martin Ward, after a very frustrating 2018, it was his second fight of the year, but I think he's had a bit of an on-off thing with Jazza Dickens this year, which just fell through. And I know Martin was basically making no money from Friday. He said he didn't sell all his tickets, which was widely documented. I don't think he sells that many to begin with, but needed the fight, so he's took a hit on the ticket sales and stuff and on the money, and probably put his own money into it, but he just wanted to get out there and get the 6 rounds under his belt, and that's what he did. He fought a fella called Johnson Tellez. I'm sure I've seen him before on the circuit. He beat him no bother. Martin looked a bit tired after the 6 rounds. I don't think he was at his particular fighting weight that he wants to be for the big fights, but he looked good. It was a typical Martin Ward performance, really, as you know yourself. Himself, Tommy, both lovely boxers. That's never been in question with the Wards, has it? No,
they are both very they use like cliches and stuff, but like slick and very skillful boxers.
It's funny because Tellez was Martin dominated all, but in the 6th round, Tellez put him against the ropes and just started unloading against the ropes, and there's a bit of an audible gasp in the venue and,
in the arena.
In the arena, and there was a bit of a gasp, and I was, Jesus, what's going on? And I asked Blitzen about it. I was like, what do you think there? He said, he said he asked Fano about it and just brushed it off. So, I think Martin took a lot of them on the gloves. Well, even Ron Kearney didn't score that round to Tellez. But at the time when you seen him against the ropes, you thought, God, is he in bother here? But I think it was just a bit of I think he knew what he was doing. He came out and showboated after that and did a bit of an alley shuffle and stuff. So I don't think he was in too much bother with it, Martin. But I think Ron gave the first round 10s each, Ron Kearney, local referee. But Martin won every round after that. And again, I think he's pleased with the round. He looked particularly knackered after the 6th leg, but as you say, it's been I think he's quite a late addition to the show anyway, but I think he's one of them naturally fit lads that just ticks over anyhow.
Got through it.
You don't see him balloon between, he's always at ringside of Tommy's fights, and he always looks as trim as he does. And I was talking about him on Friday, and he's swine fighters now. I don't know if you agree, but he feels like he's been around forever. And I looked at his box fight. I'm sure he's only 30 or 31, but he's had some big fights in his time. And I think it's
I think probably similar to Tommy. Like he's had a lot of fights, and he must have had north of 30 fights now, Martin. And
I would think so, and a good amateur career as well, which you forget that adds miles on the clock, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And see, as you said when you first started discussing him, he's fought for the British. Obviously, he was in a cracking fight with Jazza Dickens. Fought for the European. It was both of those actually. And then
you were, that's right.
You were there when he challenged Stewie Hall for the world title. So he's mixed it at unsuccessfully, admittedly, but he's mixed it at a really high level. So when you see him on a Friday night, sort of just like going through the motions is probably like summarising how you've described that there, but like just sort of, as I say, keeping busy, ticking over, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's just, it again hit home, and it seems like we're having quite a melancholy little thing about boxing at the minute, but like it does hit home because like you say, that he's fighting because he needs the fight, he needs to get out there and keep just the cobwebs off and what have you, but like not making any money off it, and like you said, he's had so many bigger nights than that.
I think in 29, I think that's it. I think it must be the final push now for Martin. I don't know what his plans are and what weight he's going to fight at, but I think maybe next year could be the last year you see him in there. I don't know, just one of them again that's been around a long time now, and you forget that he fought Stewie Hall, and I think it got ended really early on a cut for Martin that night. And I remember for a while after he used to get introduced as a former world title challenger, and he doesn't anymore when it comes to the ring, and it seems that long ago now, but just a lovely lad from a good family as well, and it was good to see him back. But I guess it's the final push next year for Martin, maybe a new weight. For whatever reason, the Jazza Dickens fight just didn't materialise, and won't now anyway for the British. But as you say, he's had, unfortunately, just came up short in those British and European and I guess world level fights. But one big push next year for Martin. I think again a fighter probably with maybe a few miles on the clock now and come towards the end, but seems to be determined to hang in there and see what next year brings, you know.
Yeah, and was the next fight, was that like the last one up on the running order?
The last fight, we're in an order of the card. The last fight.
I'll let you cover that one, and then we'll have a look, pick and choose some bits from the last 3 weeks, I think.
Of course. The next fight, the last fight of the night, was the local lad called Dean Lang. Dean, it's not a fight that you think, because he signed to Pat Barrett, again, the Black Flash stable. So he's not a fighter that I'd seen in the flesh before, I don't think, up here.
I saw him last time out. He boxed the Lancastrian suite again on the Steve Wraith show. Yeah, I'm sure it was the last fight on that night as well, or later on.
Well, he's got a defeat on his record against a guy whose name I can't pronounce. He has lost one. He was a good amateur. He's one of the Berkeley Boxing Club lads. I think he's had between 60-70 amateur fights. I think he's had a lot of fights. And on Friday he fought a guy from Sheffield, Chris Dutton, who was going into the contest with 4 wins and 5 defeats. But his 4 wins with his first 4 fights, and he's lost after that to some good names in, Tommy Philbin, Zach Shelley, Lerone Richards, people like that. And he lost to Dean Lang on Friday. Just didn't really see enough from Dutton. There was flashes. There was actually a bit of support from there, from Sheffield, and really egging him on and telling him to go for it and stuff. But I don't think he came in with a particular journeyman's mentality. I think he tried to have a go at times, and I could see in his ring walk. I was next to him when he come to the ring. I was coming back from the outside bit, and he was there, and it's just a little thing I picked up on. The whip said, ready whenever you are, Chris. And he just took about a couple of minutes to really psych himself up outside the ring. I was like, if that was Al Mohammed or something, do you know what I mean? If he's straight in there, do his shift and go on. This Dutton was really firing himself up, and I thought, he means a bit of business here. And there was times during the fight where he sort of showed that, but he just didn't have enough, and Lang got the win and did deserve it as well. There's times where you sort of watch Dean Lang through the cracks of your fingers, like you think, oh God, he can be a bit. It took a while to get going. It was a bit of a slow burner. He did get caught a few times, and that's what sort of made me wince. But the first couple of rounds were very scrappy. They were told off for sort of holding a lot. But after that, Dean Lang did settle. I think that might just be nerves, because if you look at his box rec, Dean, he's fought in Manchester a few times, and maybe not particularly used to fighting up here and being the main event. I know it was only a 4-fight show, but
it's still like, for where he is in his career and stuff, there probably is a bit of pressure on him, even if it's pressure that he's putting on himself or feeling whatever from like any outside influence. But it's going to be a totally different mentality, different experience for him.
Again, he did win the fight, and he deserved to win it as well, but I think there's definitely things to work on there as well. And he's a good amateur, as I was saying. He's one of them that maybe just needs to keep active now and see what 2019 brings, really. But good to see him. It means the world to these local lads, and his friends and family after mobbing him and stuff, and you just think, aye, class. And you are talking about the the bottom rung of the ladder, really, domestic boxing wise. These little small hole shows, but means the world to them, and I was pleased for him. He was obviously made up at the end, and he deserved to win in what turned out over 6 rounds to be an actual good contest. The first two were scrappy, as I said, but after that, it was the fight of the night for sure. It turned into a good scrap, and he got the win, and I'm sure he'd benefit from that as well, definitely.
Yeah, nice one.
So that concludes Friday night. There we go, 4 fights.
Alright, so we'll I don't know, we're always back, and then we'll have a look at what's coming up.
Go for it.
So going back just 1 week, got from like what we're just there saying, the sort of the small hole where there's lads struggling to make ends meet and not sure where the next fight's coming from. You've then got probably one of the, well, it was billed as the richest fight in the cruiserweight division. Yeah.
Bellew Usyk.
Yeah, I'm glad you knew what I was on about there.
Yes, it's good. I enjoyed it. I was just like everyone else in the country, really, who, unless you're a diehard Tony Bellew fan, couldn't have failed to have been impressed with Usyk again. He's just a class act.
This is it. Like, I think I must be one of the few people in the country who doesn't either love or hate Bellew. Like, I think I don't mind him particularly. Like, he doesn't irritate me as much as he does some people. And like, it was one of those. It was hard because I was like, I'm not one who's like ultimately massively patriotic, whatever you want to call it, and wanting to like, oh well, because he's English, I want him to win and stuff. I was like, I wouldn't have minded him winning. I wouldn't have didn't begrudge him or anything. And then, when you see someone like Usyk, so watching that as a complete neutral, you're watching like Usyk in action. It was impressive, but I think you've got to hand the first few rounds. Like, Bellew did better than anyone imagined he would have done, especially in the sort of style that he did. Obviously, I've documented many times before, I'm not one for like the build up and reading anything into what they're saying. Like, if I catch him with it, like when if I catch him with my left hand, he's going out, and then suddenly the narrative sort of spreads a little bit and ripples throughout Twitter and social media, and even in the press conferences and stuff. You've got like this now, the opinion built, and it was like, well, Bellew's not going to outbox him, he needs to catch him with a left hook.
Well,
so then
this left hook that couldn't put Nathan Cleverly away for 24 rounds, but do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, you have to distance yourself in that narrative. It is hard sometimes, you know. We were watching it out in town, me and a few of the lads that night, and you were watching it and you were like, bloody hell, he's doing alright here, and you get called over the commentary, and sometimes it's hard not doing. And I think the narrative continued after the fight. Some people were trying to like make it out as some sort of Hail Mary punch from Usyk that got him out of bother and stuff, and Bellew was up on the cards, and it's like, come on, man, like, you must have a bit about you to see that, you know.
No, but this is exactly it, and like, I believe he was up on the cards, which I couldn't agree with. Like, I think I gave Bellew the first 2, maybe 3 rounds, but it was through the boxing, and you could say like obviously Usyk took the sort of time off and was trying to calculate it and judge, and he was never in bother or anything, but like Bellew still had to go out and win those rounds, and he didn't throw particularly a lot, but he threw and landed more than Usyk in the early rounds, and you think, all right, so like, you know, Bellew's boxing well, he's obviously getting a bit of confidence from that, and I think it's too simplistic to just say, well, as soon as Usyk figured him out, he took over.
Yeah,
I think it probably took Usyk a couple of rounds longer than he anticipated to suss him out. And even in some of the rounds that then Usyk was winning, they weren't like dominant rounds. It was still close, but you think, oh, Usyk's maybe just edged that one, and it wasn't like a really engrossing sort of matchup for the first half of the fight.
But I was sitting next to Dominic McGuigan on Friday night. He was working for the board there, old professional boxer from the late 80s, early 90s, and he was like, oh, Usyk carried him, man, for the first few rounds. I was like, I think that's a little harsh. I don't think Bellew did have his moments. I don't think he carried him through any of it. I just think it just took him a while, as you say, to adjust, but that's the mark of an excellent fighter.
It's interesting because
he did adjust, and he sussed Bellew out, and then, you know, got him out of there with a lovely finish. And he's a class act, isn't he, you know? And
I think, like, I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and obviously just sort of like she'd gone to bed, so I was describing.
She was fascinated.
Alright, she'll have loved this breakdown. So, but I was like, she knows who Bellew is and what have you, and she knew the fight was going on and what. So she asked about it, and I was like, oh well, like, you know, Bellew won the first few rounds, and no one really expected him to, and then Usyk took over, and like, say eventually, but was it like round 8 got the stoppage, and as I was explaining it and sort of describing it, I was thinking of Mayweather and McGregor.
Yeah.
It just like obviously it's a ridiculous comparison in the like the abilities of all the boxers involved and what have you, but it was that sort of thing. Like when McGregor was like tagging Mayweather, you're thinking, oh well, I don't think he's going to win, but he's won a couple of rounds. Yeah, he's building up a bit of a lead, and you think, oh no, and like you think, not like it was you just phrasing it there when you were saying about like Dom saying like it was carrying him. I thought, oh, that like links in with that a bit, and I mean, like I as I say, I had Usyk up at the time of the stoppage by a couple of rounds, and from probably I think maybe even earlier, but it was definitely around 6, 7, and 8. Like Usyk was, you just thought he was getting to him, and obviously we've got a WhatsApp group going, and there's a few messages going. You're like, he's timing him now. He's finding his range. He's landing a bit more, and he was like working the body a bit as well. And then I mean, like the shot wasn't a Hail Mary by any means, but it was just such a peach of a left hook. Like the right to set it up, the move, like the way he moved into it and everything. I mean, the interview afterwards when Bellew, bless him, was just like didn't know what had hit him, didn't know what round it had ended, was like didn't know what was going on.
There was a bit of I didn't really think about this until the next day, but there was a bit of criticism on social media there saying Sky should never have done that interview with Bellew. He was, he didn't know where he was. He was punch drunk. That was a disgrace making sure he did that interview, and it was just like it's interesting, like. Way of looking at it, really. Like
I know, like I mean, I was like laughing there, and I'm thinking like
the UFC now don't interview people who have been knocked out in the ring. It's the medical side of it now comes first, and if anyone's been stopped, I don't know if that's true or not. Or
yeah, it is. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it just made us think, like I guess there was no harm done in the end, but
no, like I thought similar there, just when I was obviously laughing about it and like making a bit of light about it, but making light of it, but. Like,
should the interview be someone's priority when someone's just been sent sprawling through the ropes?
No, I don't think it should be the priority at all. But obviously, like Bellew's got up, and I imagine I don't know, but I imagine they've approached him and he'd been happy enough to do it and what have you. Like again, he wasn't. He wasn't in his like in the best position to do it, but.
Well, as I say, I was out, and some people were going, God, that was on Twitter and social media and stuff. Some people were going, oh, that was a tough interview to watch.
It was bizarre, like it was.
He didn't know what round it was, and it was a bit weird. He just kept kissing, and I was like, kissing Usyk and stuff. I was like, oh, was it that? But
he did, yeah, and I think like, there definitely was an element of that. But I also think it's probably like the emotion of it and all. Like he knew it was his last fight, and he was, he obviously was feeling the effects of it. There's no way of saying he wasn't, but
yeah, he
was just sort of like like he didn't know what round it was and that, but then he said like give credit to Usyk, blah blah, like hell of a fighter and all the rest of it, and
that's
just, fair enough, I suppose. But
I guess it was the outcome most were expecting, and I guess that marks the end now for Bellew, which is
and
it's been a good
career,
funny because he's made his money, and
well, that's it. Like I've said for a long time now that like you can look at a fighter's record, any fighter at all, and you can. No matter how good a career they've had, you can pick apart the record if you really want to.
Yeah.
And I've seen it with Bellew straight away, like from the Sunday, like there was obviously mostly it was British boxing people who were sort of saying, well, what a career he's had, British, Commonwealth, European, world champion, beat David Hay twice, he's made his money, he's retiring like millionaire, he can look after his family, kids, like I know it's a bit a joke with Bellew, like going home with his wife and kids and stuff, but from a boxer's point of view, if you turn professional and someone offered you his career, that you'd snap his hand off. Every single boxer would. Like just for those accolades there, and the way he's gone out, he's fought obviously ended up fighting the best there is in the division. No shame in losing to Usyk. Goes out like.
No shame in losing to Stevenson back in his light heavy days and stuff like that.
No, exactly. But then
he cleverly won when he was still quite inexperienced at the pro game and stuff.
This is it. Then on the flip side, you look at it and you think, and I've seen it, and I'm not saying which one I tend to agree. I'm normally down the middle of these sorts of things. But I think it was Steve Bunce had commented something, and then underneath there was a few comments, and they were like, every title Bellew's won has been vacant.
Yeah.
So he's never actually beaten a champion for a belt. He come up short in like the Stevenson fight, and he's like and Usyk obviously. So there's people saying that he come up short against the only genuine world class fighters he's faced. He swerved the Super Series to fight past it David Hay, and it was bizarre because I'd probably, even as a cynic, I never really looked at it like that, and I thought, well, he got like the British and Commonwealth, and he was undefeated, and like, as you say, he fought cleverly, like probably a bit before he was sort of scheduled to, and it's like, as I say, it's probably a little bit of both, because I mean,
I don't think he's ever been world class. Like if Usyk's world class, or someone, I don't know, if Adonis Stevenson was then or whatever, like Bellew's, I think he's squeezed every ounce of talent maybe out of him. That, you know, I don't think he's ever been. He's not a natural athlete as such. I think he's done his best he's done well to get to the heights he has, I guess. And as you say, people would take it every time because, you know, he's secured his finances. He has had his moments. And
I was going to say, like, the Goodison Park moment.
Whether it was vacant or not, McCarthy was a moment. Here was, you know, casual delight, you know, in this country and stuff. And you know, from a boxing point of view, then maybe, you know, but then again, he's fought Usyk and he's fought Stevenson, so how can he say he ducked? It's just a funny one, isn't it? But I guess to him it's been successful, and to most then has it.
That's the thing though, anyone involved in him, and who's like, obviously Dave Caldwell trained him through this sort of part of his this purple patch of his career, and like Eddie Hearn obviously has mentioned in the past, and Tony said the same, that like they are closer than just a promoter and a boxer, and like from anyone involved with him, it's been that dream career, and he gets to walk away now like in an unbelievable, enviable position for most boxers.
Well, that's it. He did lie. He's got his marbles intact, I think. You know, he's made
as much as he ever did.
He's had a bit of an Indian summer, I guess. You know what I mean? And it's sort of when he's had some joy going up in the weights and stuff, and it is what it is. And it's another one of that era gone, I guess. I don't know how you describe that era, like the sort of maybe the crossover between.
That's what I was hinting at earlier.
Matchroom days, you know, and
when
come to an end slowly.
We're talking about the Matchroom stable. You've got like obviously Joshua is at the top of that. He's at his peak or approaching his peak, however you want to view that. But like Bellew's obviously firmly on his way out, if not already out, depending on what happens in the future. Kell Brook, I would say maybe Kell Brook 1-2 big fights left, depending on how they go.
Those lads that used to be with Warren and Hearn in that sort of crossover period, De Gale come to the end, chasing the big fights. As you say, Brook, George Groves could be the end, may not be the end, who knows? Like all those lads from that sort of.
Yeah, like even if it's, we're not saying that they're all retiring now as Bellew is, but they're all coming toward the end of their careers. Yeah, you'd be surprised to see them going on at the top level past 2019 anyway, for shit like. So yeah, it is, and then you've got the likes of, we've talked about prospects, but then you've got lads who are on the cusp of getting to that world level already, and obviously we'll talk about a few of them, because I saw a couple in Glasgow.
But then, speaking, just throwing you back a bit there, you talk about someone who's come to the end and who you could, I guess, sort of mirrors, in a way, Bellew's career, and you can pick holes in his record, and you can, you know, doubt his abilities and stuff, but again, if you ask someone, would they take his career, then I'm sure 99% of boxers would say yes, and that's Ricky Burns. You know, you look at his 3-weight world title, world champion and stuff, and you can pick holes galore on that, I guess, but was far too good for Scott Cardle on the night as well.
I know, like, it's bizarre that, like, the career of Ricky Burns, like, again, we talked about...
it's quite bizarre that he's still going.
You talk about, like, watching Morrison fight in a small hole show. We watched Ricky Burns fight in Newcastle... not the most recent show, the one before, wasn't it? And like,
it was his 50th professional fight that we were there for that.
You think like from that point of view, like what an achievement. But then on the other side, you think, as you say, he's still going in little 6-rounders, and like you can't see him ending any time because he's lost 6 or 7 fights, and he's still going.
I thought you were going to say he's lost some money there. I thought, oh God, we're not going to get into his finances, are we?
Well, no, we're not. But I think the fact that he's still going, still boxing on, is testament to his love of the sport. But also, there's a few well-documented issues that he may or may not have had outside of the ring with certain promoters. I'm leaving it there. I don't want any.
You did that very well.
I don't want any nasty emails or letters coming. But because then like. When you were talking, again, going back to Marcus Morrison, like very briefly, when you were talking about him earlier, and the sort of journey he's had. I was thinking of Scott Cardle, because obviously I watch him, and he's no longer with Joe Gallagher, and he was one who was, you know, British champion and undefeated, and you're thinking, oh, you know, he's going on to like bigger and better things, and it just hasn't happened for whatever reason.
It's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? In boxing, you hear it quite a lot about certain fighters, but he was definitely one of them. That Cardle I'm talking about here, not Burns. Cardle was, if he could replicate in the gym, if he could replicate in the ring what he does in the gym, and you hear that about a few fighters and stuff, but he's definitely one you've heard about that. You know, you've heard that about, and it's just, you know, it's a funny one. I think Burns was in training for last night's show anyway, in camp for the 17th of November show. You know, last night in wherever it was, America.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously the Cardle-Cordina fight.
But he's another one, isn't he? Burns, he's always in decent shape and
that's it. And
just about ready to go.
The fight fell through, and I thought, bloody hell, and then Burns stepped in last minute, and you know, to sort of save. I guess he's obviously been offered decent money to step in and to fight Cardle, and I was like, what's an interesting one that? I was like, where does the loser go and stuff? And I was like, where does the loser go if it's Burns? And I messaged a mutual lightweight friend of ours. Could possibly be the British lightweight champion, I don't know. I says, how do you see this one going? You know, because you know both of them quite well. Obviously, I'm talking about Ritson here, and he says, oh, mate.
You just left it? Leave it anonymous?
He said, oh, mate, Burns stoppage for me. He says, I've seen them spar before back in the Billy Nelson days, and obviously, he sparred with Burns and obviously destroyed Cardle, and he says, I'm going to have to go with Burns stoppage. He says, I've seen them spar, and I just think he's going to have too much for him, and obviously that proved to be the case on the night.
You kept that one quiet till after the fight. I would have loved to have backed that one.
I didn't keep that quiet, I forgot. I didn't even put money on it myself. So I just, I don't know. It's a funny one for Cole, isn't it? But again, his career seems to have sort of tailed off a bit after, I think he was one fight away for the Lonsdale belt and could have won it outright against Ritson. Well, probably still can, I guess. But
it was it was the Robbie Barrett defence was going to be his third defence.
I think Burns
and he lost.
Burns and Ritson have both beat him now. Two of the bigger lightweights and better lightweights on the domestic scene. And it's a shame, but who knows where he goes from here? I don't know. Does he take a leaf out of maybe someone like Tommy Coyle's book and maybe he boxes away or something, or goes down a completely different route, or is the Cordina fight still there? You know, does he want to get in with the bigger names again now and just keep going down that route? And he's lost a few. There's no record to preserve anymore, but because it looks like, you know, he's not going to reach the top of the game anymore.
Well, this is it, because he's ultimately fallen short at British level eventually. So then you think, obviously, we've again seen quite recently a big step to European level. Never mind getting on to like a world one, but then, as you say, if he still has the backing of Matchroom, does he go on like some of the American cards, or like fight lower down the card on, you know, away from the sort of pressure of it all, and maybe I don't know, like try and get a ranking or something and work towards some bigger fight, or it's hard one. Like, does he rebuild in the sense of being the home fighter again, or does he go in like what you say now with some of the bigger names and risk losing again, but maybe stall?
There is always a route back for people, and I think, you know, I was just thinking there about another couple of fighters who have fought this weekend who have taken sort of different routes in their careers, and you know, and one's had success this weekend, the other one hasn't. The one that hasn't is the much maligned Frankie Gavin. You know, a complete forgotten man of British boxing, really. That fight again just totally crept up on me this weekend against the Spaniard whose name I can't pronounce.
Leharaga,
is that the one? Yes, yeah, we'll call him that. Him. And again, just Frankie descended into a bit of a Twitter laughing stock over the weekend just because of his failed weight.
Do you not think though, in like a very, very short window / viewpoint, whatever you want to call it, that just summed up the career of Frankie Gavin?
He was encapsulated in that, basically, yeah, it was. And there was no sympathy for him, there's no surprise in it either. It was just like, oh, missed weight, has he? And it's just, you know, and then you read into it, and
he's missed weight he's missed weight at a weight where most people think he shouldn't have been boxing anyway. Like, throughout his career, obviously Frank Warren, who promoted him for the majority of it, was like, say he's not a welterweight, he's not big, he's not a big welterweight, he should be breaking his back, getting down to 140 at least.
140, exactly.
And obviously he never has, and I don't know, just like, again, we're talking about like, amateur success going into the pros and stuff, and how it doesn't always translate. And I think unfortunately for Frankie Gavin, he's going to be a cautionary tale to young boxers and talented amateurs. You're going to look at it and say, well, do you want to go on and be successful and be a world champion and all the rest of it, or do you want to go down the Frankie Gavin route? And that's like, it's sad really that's what it is.
It doesn't always translate over, whether that's a lack of power from that, and was he just too amateurish in his style, he's a lovely boxer, but whether that's a lifestyle choice,
I was just going to say, I think you can, to a certain extent, you can work around that. If you've got the skills and stuff, you don't need to rely on power. Eventually, I think it'll catch up at some point with you, but like, he's another one. I mean, that obviously fought last night, and he'd fought previously for the welterweight title when he lost to Leonard Bundu.
Yeah,
but he's another one who's like, he's turned over and he's won British and Commonwealth titles, and a lot of boxers would consider that a successful career. But coming from where he did, and exactly, and like I think he still is like the only British boxer or the only English boxer to have won the like a world championship as an amateur, and
probably one of the
that sort of pressures, I think, probably maybe contributed to it. Obviously, personal life choices and attitude out the ring, and again, it's like easy for us to sit here and say it, but
no, it is a good point. Definitely was undoubtedly one of the finest amateurs of his generation, but for, as you say, probably a number of factors, hasn't developed that into his pro career, and
I'm not speaking as a boxer myself, obviously, but as a boxer, it must be incredibly frustrating to see someone who had that, and I don't like to use the term natural talent, because I imagine as an amateur he would have had to work hard and trained hard and stuff to hone his skills. But I'm saying about Bellew, someone who's grafted and like squeezed every last ounce out of his talent, same with Ricky Burns, and then you've got someone in Gavin who a lot of people obviously had very, very high hopes for, and I mean ultimately he's fallen short.
He has, and he's had a few chances as well. It's not just last night where he's fallen short. He has fallen short and missed weight on different occasions and stuff. And he's obviously took that fight as the way fighter for some sort of, I guess there's decent money involved as well. But where he goes from here, if he fights again, remains to be seen. But Leheraga looks like a bit of a beast. He's got Bradley Skeet's name in his CV as well. Frankie Gavin, bit of a Brit slayer turned into. I think he signed the top rank with the ever-growing number of foreign fighters.
I mean, again,
it was on TV in America last night, so I guess we'll possibly be seeing him, stateside soon. And
well, that's it. He's looked impressive at European level, and obviously with good backing behind him, he's going to be in with a world title shot at some point, isn't he?
Oh, for sure, you'd think so, without a doubt. And the second fighter that I was referring to there was sort of, I can't really comment because I didn't see the fight, but a fighter that we bizarrely opened this phone call talking about before we even started podcasting, and that's a fighter, Wadi Camacho, who
I think you would mention Wadi Camacho and Arfan Iqbal before you'd actually said hello.
I did. It's quite a weird relationship we have at times, but let's have a look. Wadi Camacho, just a fighter that you're sort of familiar with just because he's the fighter in the matchroom shows back in the day. He was a matchroom fighter,
Did he win prize fighter?
Cruiserweight. I think he did, didn't he? I'm sure that's right. But he won the Commonwealth Cruiserweight title last night, and just again a man that seems to have been around forever. And he fought Arfan Iqbal, the fighter that we'd seen slug it out up here with Simon Vallely and stuff. And again, a fighter that you said before that there's different routes back and there's different options available to you. And, Commonwealth champion now, he's dropped back away from those sort of matchroom level shows and gone down to the small hall scene down in London with Steve Goodwin on that scene and stuff. So a successful night for him, and a fight that I was quite interested in, and I've seen that he won from Martin New Age Boxing, and
then suddenly, like as you say, he's got
you have to take a step back.
He's got the Commonwealth now, and that could be the key to bigger fights for him. Obviously, I know like Okoli vacated. Yeah, it was Okoli had it, didn't he? Then vacated it. But
that's right. You had
some decent names in and around that level. That could be.
But he had a bit of a war with Isaac Chamberlain a couple of years back, didn't he?
Yeah.
Could that be a fight? Chamberlain came through against Watkins the other week in a highly entertaining fight. Is that another fight? It's sort of that domestic cruiserweight scene that's bubbling quite nicely, and can be a much maligned division at times, but there's definitely fights there. You know, we saw Craig Glover dismantle Simon Vallely up here, and he looked extremely impressive from Liverpool. So that's another one that'll probably be roundabout in that mix, you know, and stuff like, you know, God knows where Simon Vallely is career-wise, but no, there is some names there, and again, it's, you know, like we said, taking that step back to come forward again, and I guess it'll mean the world to him, like the Commonwealth title, and Tommy Carver's another sort of name that won that not long ago, and again, like, had his setbacks in the past, but it just depends, you know, whether you want to go down that route and go back to, you know, feel like the Marcus Morrison podcast, but going, you know, back to someone like Morrison, taking it right back to the beginning and getting involved in those ticket deals, small horse shows.
Well, no, that's it. He's a topical example, isn't he? And like when we're saying there about what you'd consider a successful career and things, it's all to do with your sort of
perception, I guess.
Perception, yeah, and like prior expectations. What you sort of see for yourself, what other people like. If you're turning pro with an Olympic gold medal, or I'm not obviously like Gavin didn't have that, but whoever it is, if you're turning pro with that sort of fanfare behind you and the big backing and all the rest of it, then if you fall short of a world title, you're going to be judged very, very harshly. Whereas someone who creeps up through the small hall scene, and if they go on and win a British, a European, if they manage to win a world title, suddenly like that's a massive achievement, and it's something totally different.
I've said this before, you know, it makes it sound like, oh, look at me, I run a boxing site with my cousin and I'm a boxing snob and whatever, and it's not what I mean, but I think if you only watch, say, Sky shows and, you know, the higher end of the echelons and stuff, and if you're, like, entry level to boxing is watching, say, British title fights and stuff, then you'll be a bit of a harsh judge at times, do you know what I mean? And
oh, yeah, exactly.
If you're in touch with your small hall scene and you get such a realisation and sort of appreciation of the, I know it's another cliche, levels and stuff, but you realise just how many levels there is, and, you know, as we said, we found out that even the jump between British and European can be massive sometimes, and, you know, I refer you back to John Lewis Dickinson, who won the Lonsdale outright, and then when he got that award at, you know, our North East Awards night and stuff, and Lifetime Achievement, and someone's like, hey, well, what's he done? He's only won the British, and you're just like, sometimes you just need to appreciate that. It's quite a big thing.
No,
you know
like,
what I mean?
as you say, it's not necessarily a snobbery on our part, because I've been in that position. Like when I was younger, obviously you watch fighters, and like Darren Bartlett being an example, he won the British, the Commonwealth, European, and then like that was, to me, that was like my perception of it, and it was like, oh well, you know, if you're a decent boxer, you win those. Like Billy Joe Saunders won those three, Cleverly had done it. Kell Brook won the British and went up, and you just like, if it's sort of like in my head it was like, oh well, if you're any good, you win the British quite easily, and then you go on to world level. But then as you watch it and you understand a bit more, and obviously I've grown up a bit, and as you say, you see the small hall ones, and you just think actually the level of just getting to British is a high standard. It's like if you look at, like, it's, I don't want like comparing it with other sports and stuff because it doesn't really translate well, but like you're talking about football, like if you've got like the top end of the Premier League, like your Champions League, that's like your world title level, so there's only so many teams can play at that level and compete and win at that level. Whereas then you've got like, you know, your sort of Europa League was a perfect comparison actually, like your European title level, like that, you're not quite good enough to win at world level.
It totally is,
and then you maybe mid-level Premier League, lower level Premier Leagues, you're British, and like area level, okay, I don't, like, we can go even further down probably. It's somewhere on that tier. Like not everyone can be playing the Premier League. Not every team can.
Not everyone could be world champion.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
British champion and stuff, but it doesn't mean you're a bad fighter or you failed. You know what I mean? It's just, again, I guess it's.
And then you've got that many different entry points into boxing. You've got lads who 10 amateur fights and then turn pro. Like,
you've got lads who know amateur fights. You've got lads who came from totally just the unlicensed scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's that many different like
I think Nick
levels of experience and what have you.
There's a few examples up here with that in the North East scene. People like Darren Rain, people like that. I think it just came from that unlicensed background rather than, you know, no amateur setup and stuff. I think Nick Blackwell was a famous example of that as well. But there is a lot of different entry points and stuff, and it's a fascinating topic.
Well, while we're on that one, I'll just
an hour, by the way.
I know, we're pushing an hour now.
Is there anything? Do you want to look forward rather than back? few weeks. That's caught your eye.
Well, I'm at the Lancastrian Suite next week.
You are. It's a decent little card, that better. I think you've got some good names on that.
Yeah, so
I think you've got the better show.
For dealing in that sort of sense, I probably have. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Like, obviously, we've talked about the Lancastrian Centre is a venue, but then it's a shame because is that the one where was it Rhys McAllister and Tom Whitfield were going to fight? Or was that the previous one?
No, it was that one. It was Rhys McAllister.
This
Tom
one
Whitfield.
coming, yeah, I thought it was.
Fell through. John Green's also been pulled from that one.
Yeah, I was looking on BoxRec before, so there's a few TBAs on there, but like in terms of prospects, there's a few that we are familiar with. Troy Williamson, I think, scheduled to be on. He's definitely. Joe Maposa's on there as well, so they're definitely two that we've mentioned to look out for. So it'll be good for us just to see how they're getting on and check in with them.
Definitely two of the regions shining light for sure. And you know, I keep thinking that's the last North East action of the year, but I want to remind you of as well. Every Thursday, the 13th of December, we have to go to this because it's at the Hilton and there's a 3-course meal on the go. MTK Newcastle are having a home show at the Hilton in Gateshead. I think it's the Thursday night, Thursday the 13th of December.
Is that their first one?
So I think it's their first sort of. You know, I think all their 4 fighters are on. You know, there's a 3-course meal on tables, bit of a posh dinner event, I think, at the Hilton, but I'm sure Gary Ball save us a couple of seats, won't he?
Oh, no doubt.
Doesn't mind a couple of British Boxing Blog hoodies turning up. I'm not wearing a suit.
We'll pop in the gym, make sure.
I think that'll round off the North East, for another year, 13. So 2 shows left. One for you this Saturday, then hopefully both of us on that night. But again, it's always just good to see the same familiar faces, you know, all the North East gang and stuff. So nice way to round the year on Saturday. Again, like we always lament with the North East shows, that it is a shame when things fall through, but part of the course with small hole shows, I guess you're always going to get it, aren't you? Whether that's due to ticket sales, injuries or whatever, but that's a shame.
And from like small hole to arguably the biggest in the world title is on the line in a couple of weeks. I think we'll probably should do a little preview of that now, just in case we don't do another podcast before it comes up.
Right, go on, you stuff.
So we've got, I don't know, it's such a bizarre fight, and I can't get my head around it in certain ways. But it's like 2 undefeated heavyweight champions, obviously one former champion, never lost his belts in the ring. Tyson Fury challenging the. I don't want to say, is he the big name American? Is he a big name over there? I don't know. Deontay Wilder. Like, it's
I don't know.
Outside, I mean, again, like obviously outside of Wilder Joshua, this is the only fight that I'm particularly interested in, the heavyweight division, and I'll attract loads of criticism for that because I've said this on Twitter before and got into a war with several people. I don't particularly care about seeing Joshua fight anyone other than the winner of this fight. I have very little interest in it, and that's not a criticism of Joshua. If anything, it's because of how highly I rate Joshua. I don't see any other fights being particularly competitive.
No, I agree. You want to see him fight the best, and no, you shouldn't apologise for that. Because
so, like with this in mind, like Fury Wilder is the best heavyweight fight that can be made. I think outside of anything to do with Joshua.
Question for you: Does it take a bit of gloss off the fight for you potentially that it's 3 years after Klitschko, and it's sort of, or does that add an extra element of intrigue? That sort of what Tyson Fury will we get?
It adds a bit of unpredictability to it. Unpredictability, is that the word? Yeah. Because and that links to why I was describing it as bizarre. Because when Fury made his comeback, if someone had told me he was fighting Wilder in December this year, I'd have laughed. There's not a chance.
Me too, because I won't listen to anyone that tells me that was the plan. You don't fight Safari Patera and then Wilder was always fight 3. You know, you hear different rumours, you hear so many cynical rumours. I've read everything from Frank Warren skint, Frank Warren pushed for the fight, to Daniel Kinahan skinned at MTK and he pushed for the fight too. And you're just like, I'm sure there's money involved in some way, but like, you know, it has to be, you know, I actually don't believe that was his third, you know, that wasn't the plan, it 100% wasn't, but he's obviously been offered it, and whether it was the top trump matchroom and say, well, look, we'll make the fight and we'll have it, or...
I do think there was an element of that. I think they've swooped in because of how long and how public the negotiations were between Wilder and Joshua, they've swooped in as if to say, well, we've made the fight, so Wilder's side aren't the problem, we're not the problem. Oh, who could the problem possibly be with? And there's definitely an element of one-upmanship. I agree with what you said in that there's no way this was plan A. Like, there's not a chat that there can't have been. Like, how he looked in the last couple of fights, there's no way they've looked at that and thought, oh, well, actually, he's ahead of where we expected him to be. He's ready for Wilder, let's put him in there.
But then do you look back to 3 years ago and say, well, actually, if we have a proper camp with him, he basically seems to be in camp the whole of 2018, really, Fury. Like, do we totally just back our man here and just think he can beat him?
Well, that's it. He's ultimately accepted the fight at the end of the day. And you've got to look at that like one of two ways. He's accepted the fight because he believes in himself so much now. And to be honest, when he came back, there was that almost question marks around his self-belief and his confidence. Like, was he the same fighter? Did he think that he was at the same level and stuff? And he looked a bit nervous, a bit hesitant with some of his boxing. But then, like, obviously you see him in interviews, and again we're talking about the bravado and things, and like, there are similarities with the Klitschko fight in that he was a big underdog going into that, and he seemed like he was the only person who believed that he was going to win. So looking and not reading into too much of what he's saying about how he's going to beat Wilder and all the rest of it, there's the similarity there. You can draw the parallel with he's been written off before, he's been considered the underdog. So from that point of view, would it be that big a shock? Because if Fury had gone into the Wilder fight off the back of the Klitschko fight, in what I don't know if you want to call it his prime or like in his good condition with that activity behind him, I'd have heavily favoured him to outbox Wilder and beat Wilder. I don't think Wilder's a great boxer. I think he's obviously strong, he's athletic. He's got the power, and
it's one where
I'm undecided. I'm really split on it whether I'm going to have a little like look and think over the next couple of weeks and just sort of decide to myself whether I think Fury is back to his best, and if he could possibly be anywhere near his best after such a long time out and two little tune-up fights.
I think it's something we should definitely open up as well and do maybe a prediction piece from people in the game and journalists, fighters.
Oh yeah, it'll be interesting to see the split of opinions, how people are going.
You know, if I was a gambling man, which I am, like, I couldn't. I'm just looking here at Sky Bet, Wilder 4-6 on, Fury 11-8, and it's so close, and I couldn't commit to be like, where can I convincingly put my money here? Because
the thing is, I can only see Wilder winning by knockout. So what's the odds on a stoppage?
I can only see Fury winning by points.
So yeah, that's a bit I'm slightly unsure on, but I
know
what you mean. They're the two most likely outcomes by big distance.
Unless Fury stops them, but
this is what I mean. Like we've only really seen Wilder's chin tested once against Ortiz, and he was all over the shop.
Well,
and admittedly, he recovered and he got the stoppage himself, but
I can't remember Fury the last time he really put someone down there, like spitefully put someone down. And
again, I mean that sort of thing definitely like adds to the intrigue. Like it's such a funny one because as you say, like Wilder, like if he catches him, we've seen Fury put down before, but then Wilder hasn't been in with someone who can box and probably frustrate him and move and be elusive like Fury. It's just has he got that? Has he got that? Not the mental edge, but like the concentration level, the belief to do it.
Yeah, well,
or is his body going to do or his hands? Is his body going to do what his brain's telling them to do?
Exactly, and he's without Peter Fury. There's still question marks about Ben Davison. I think that's what adds to the intrigue completely me about this whole thing. Just the amount of questions that surround the Fury camp, I guess, and not the camp, but Fury in general. You know, his inactivity adds a massive sense of intrigue. Over the last 3 years to this fight and his level of the two comeback opponents and so many questions need answered on that night. I think maybe that's, but also need questions answered about Wilder, can he box, basically, and I think that's maybe why the bookies can't split them because there's so many unanswered questions right now, and as you say, less than a fortnight away as well, which is totally crept up on the blind side. Adds to a good end of the year. There's a lot of stuff still coming between. Basically, boxing is going from now until, I guess, Christmas, really. You know what I mean? Which we'll preview close at the time. But just looking down a calendar I've got written out here, like, we're going up until the 22nd this year, and you've got 2 pay-per-views in the same night. But we're not getting into that right now because we'll go on forever.
Yeah.
So
we could talk till then about that.
You're jam-packed really from this weekend. Obviously, Lancaster Street onwards locally for us. You've got just a quick glance down the calendar here. You've got Matchroom Monte Carlo. You've got cracking MTK show in Glasgow Friday the 30th. You've got Wilder Fury. You've got Lomachenko. You've got Canelo Fielding, Warrington Frampton, Chisora White too. Like absolute ton of boxing between now and the end of the year to get stuck into, which plenty more to come.
This is people like complain about pay-per-view, and obviously I'm one of them, especially the amount of it. It seems like we're getting saturated, absolutely saturated in pay-per-view events at the moment. But not all of them are like on that platform. A lot of those, if you've got Sky or BT or whatever, Box Nation, like you've got a lot of content there between in the next couple of months, the next month and a half, really.
On that note, it's a bit sort of late in the day now, a fortnight after, but big up World Boxing Super Series and big up IFL TV and whoever else streamed that, because I just thought, mint, in these days of pay-per-view saturation, I got a crystal clear stream via the IFL YouTube stream of that whole card, the one you were at up in Glasgow, and I just thought, it made, they obviously haven't been able to strike a TV deal for whatever reason, a UK TV deal for the Super Series, but, free stream, and I thought it makes it for a really, really good card as well.
I was just going to say, we're not looking back, but we probably will now.
Made a lovely refresh and change, and big up you for going to Glasgow for 2 nights, 3 days, and covering it for British Boxing Blog. Honestly,
absolute pleasure. I would have done 3 if it wasn't for my girlfriend saying, well, I'm not going to see you for 3 days. You're not making any money off this. You're paying to go up there, like. If we ever got to the point where I was making money off it, I could maybe try and justify it a bit more.
It just adds to it's a glimpse into that sort of full-time living that way.
But no, it was a cracking show, and like everyone I sort of spoke to and dealt with at Sowland were brilliant. There was Peter, like the media guy there, the press guy. He sorted out the passes and stuff. He was so apologetic because it was like the press section we were in was outside the ringside seating because the way the Super Series is obviously set up, it's circular around the ring. So there's only really like one or maybe a couple of rows of ringside seating, and then there's like what would normally be sort of an outer ringside bit. Yeah. That was the outer ringside, which normally would be the inner ringside. It was quite a different setup from that point of view. So there was a couple of press guys weren't particularly pleased about being like a bit further from the ring than they normally would be, and I was just like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. And then honestly, I had such a good time meeting like various people that we've spoken to on Twitter. There was I think it was Craig. Sorry, I forget. It was Craig Scott, but then I think it was Craig from Gloves Red as well. There was a lad called Alan I sat and chatted to for most of the fight. But he went on his stag do when Khan fought Canelo in Vegas, so he was telling me all about that. And it was class. And then obviously saw Davey and Tom Binns, who were up there with Darren Surtees.
Aye, Darren was ringside on Friday asking about you. How you were doing?
It was so funny because like we were sort of sat and we had on the lanyards and the press passes, there was like it was all numbered, so depending on which number you had on your card, that was your different area. So like one was in a ringside, 2 was media, something blah blah blah. And Andy McCart was there for obviously IFL TV, and he was like, I can't get backstage, like, they're not even letting us backstage to film. And then I went and I saw Davey Binns ringside, so I was like saying to the security, I was like, I'm media, like blah, and so I got through to that bit anyway. So I sat down talking to Davey and blah blah. I was like, you seen Tom and Darren yet? I was like, no. I was like, the backstage, just keeping them loose, blah blah. Do you want to go and speak to him? I was like, we'll go and say hello and that. So then I'm walking back with Davey Binns and just like walking through, and he's showing his pass, and I was just with him. So like went through, and then like suddenly I was in the changing room with Darren. There was Darren there. There was a couple of the Scottish lads that were on the card. It was Michael McGurk and Kieran Smith and that. They were all there, and I just sort of like I'd sort of said hello to them at the presses and stuff, so knew them to see, but not really to know. So I was like, alright lads, blah blah blah. Just sat down, had a bit of crack with them, and then like obviously posting pictures on Instagram and that. And I came back out, and Andy come up to us. He's like, how do you get backstage? Hey, Dave
Binns when he gets where whatever doesn't.
Right, exactly. That's what I was like, I was like, I get everywhere, man.
Just a quick inside one there. Darren Richardson, Darren Surtees, whatever you want to call him, bumping in Friday, Lancaster Street, as I said. He said he is looking at this minute to be on the Eubank De Gale undercard in January in London. So
nice one.
Keep your eyes out for that one as well. So again, a northeast lad that's doing really well for himself with these opportunities he's getting with Sauerland. And
he was. It was a frustrating night for him and the lads in the float fights because most of the fights went the distance. So the three of them got on literally after the main event. There was like a press conference going on, I think, straight after the main event. And then me and all these other lads sort of went in ringside and were sitting there and watched the undercard.
Class, no, it seemed a good night, and I'm glad we'll have to, obviously, when I get to the new holidays and at work, I'll look to get myself on my travels again, because I do actually really miss it, getting up in the country.
Well, that Glasgow card on the 30th looks like a cracker, to be honest.
No, I know, that's still a possibility, depending on how many flexies go on.
Just the Friday night, isn't it?
It is. If I can get a half day, I'll be up and back. But no, it looks a really good card. Again, I can go off on a tangent here, but just a quick one, that the MTK cards they're putting together, MTK Global, the Box Nation cards is cracking, and the performance I haven't even mentioned recently was, we'll finish off by mentioning it now, Sonny Edwards, when he beat Ryan Farag as the Friday night your call fight. There's a bit of needle in the build up between those two, but Sonny Edwards is absolutely exceptional, one of the best performances I've seen in a long time, against a very credible opponent as well. He was given a boxing lesson. It was fantastic.
Seems like a good a place as any to wrap that
one up. It is, and again, we'll try and do more often.
It was very final, that review was just alright, we're done.
Again, so I guess from this point, enjoy Saturday night, Lancastrian Street.
Alright, will do, mate.
And I'll speak to you during the week.
Cheers, lad.
Alright, cheers, son. Goodbye.
See you,
Bye-bye. Bye.